Hey there, Global Church family. Welcome to the ongoing conversation about international missions at Fellowship Bible Church, where you get a front row seat to hear what God is continually doing to establish His church around the world. My name is Michael Newlin, and I'm your host for today. We are joined by Mike and Sarah Rosecky to talk about the upcoming family camp in North Dakota. So, hey, Mike.
Hi.
Sarah, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good to have you all here. I think this is your first time on a FBC podcast.
It is.
Yep.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's different. Every time I heard about podcasts, and I always listen to it on like my Apple Podcasts. And when I finally got here, I was thinking I'm going to record a podcast, and I saw a camera. I thought, oh man, that's not exactly ideal for someone who's got a face cut out for radio. But anyway, you guys don't have that problem, so we're happy to have you here. So I just mentioned family camp. What is family camp?
So family camp is an opportunity that FBC members and attendees have had the last 2 years to get involved with churches out in North Dakota, South Dakota, a couple states out west, reservations in those states. And we've had the opportunity to join them for their family camp, which a couple years ago, Chris Little, one of our global church partners, he reached out to our team and asked if we would help facilitate it. The church that wasn't in charge of it had gotten older, and they were ready to kind of pass the baton. And so Chris asked if we would be willing to facilitate. So our first year was last year, and now this year we're getting to go back again.
Okay. Yeah, well, that sounds interesting. So in North Dakota, that's a little far. Like, how? You were there last year. Did you fly? Did you drive? How did you get there?
So, yeah, I think it's roughly 1,600 miles from Winchester, right? And many of us drove. So we drove last year. Took us just about 2 days, right? 2 days of feasible driving. We did 2 full days, 1 part-time day. But, yeah, it's quite a drive. It's a beautiful drive. Once you hit Minnesota, you hit the plains, and it's just beautiful. And you hit North Dakota, and there's not much out there. So, yeah, it's a beautiful drive. But, yeah, it is a commitment. It's 2 days just to drive there. Some people have flown. But, you know, North Dakota, as I said, it's pretty sparse. So the availability for airports it's not a lot. So there's 2 major airports. There's one in Bismarck and one in Dickinson. So Dickinson's a little under an hour from the camp. So,
okay.
But most of us are driving.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay. Good. And Sarah, you mentioned, North Dakota, South Dakota, folks in those areas, but like you just said, Mike, those are pretty relatively sparsely populated and pretty great distances. So what do these folks who come together have in common? Is that a reasonable question? Do you understand?
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah. Like, tell us, like, are they the same denomination? Are they, what is it that caused this family camp to exist before FBC got involved?
So they're all part of churches. They're all First Nation churches. So they're part of the First Nations Baptist churches. So that's kind of their denomination. And they're all a part of churches from reservations. So it's something that was an ongoing camp that they had.
Okay. So First Nations is like, that's a term I can imagine what it is, but I'm not super familiar. So help me understand, like, what's implied by that, I guess.
First Nations would be Native American.
Uh-huh. Okay. Very good.
Yeah, and a lot of them, to answer your question, a lot of them lean Baptist. So I think there were 5 or 6 reservations, groups from reservations that came last year. A lot of them were from South Dakota, and a lot of them were affiliated with Baptist churches on their reservations.
Okay. And how many people came?
So let's say the total camp number was creeping, let's say around, I think it was around 150, 160, something like that. So a third of that was our team.
Okay.
So I think we had just around 50 last year from FBC and 100 from the First Nations. And that made up of mostly kids, to
Mostly
be expected.
kids.
Mm-hmm.
Kids with or without their parents?
There was a mixture. So we did call it family camp, right? So our hope and our prayer is that parents and kids come, right? So this was the first year we helped host it, right? And so there were families there. There were some families with kids, but there were a lot of kids just by themselves too. So we had a mixture.
Mm-hmm.
We had some adults that took a group of kids, and maybe there were some siblings mixed in there, but we did see a lot of that as well, where they were chaperoning groups of kids, and it was mostly elementary aged.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. And did the people from the different churches, did they already know each other from past camps, or was it, was everybody getting to know each other for the first time, more or less?
I would say that a lot of them knew each other from past events.
Right.
But a lot of the kids, maybe it was new. I'm not exactly sure.
I don't know. I think the pastors probably knew each other very well. I don't know how much of the kids knew each other.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But they all got comfortable, by day 1, day 2.
I'm sure.
They had something called Gaga Ball, which was a big hit. And I'd never heard of it until going to camp, which is a big ring where they hit the ball back and forth off the wall and everything. Who gets hit gets out, and that was a fan favorite. So
right.
It was
everyone
really
bonded
cool
there.
to see like the FBC kids and the kids from the First Nations churches just bond pretty quickly. So
Right.
that was really neat.
Okay. So how did that go with the adults? Because I know some of the First Nations people can be maybe a little reserved or reluctant around, the white man, perhaps particularly in the context of, Christianity. Was that an issue at family camp at all?
I would say that it was definitely a hurdle to kind of start conversations and stuff. And it was harder for those of us that were with the kids during the day and then to talk to the adults because you weren't with them during the lessons. So there wasn't that common time together. So some of our team felt that struggle where during mealtime, it was harder to start a conversation maybe because they hadn't been with them all day.
Right.
So there was that, but I did not feel like there was any hostility with conversations. That definitely wasn't prevalent there at all.
Right. It was just mostly, let's just say, interpersonal. Just took a little bit longer time to, get comfortable amongst the adults just in conversation. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So tell me a little bit about the team that you have going this year.
So a lot of them are repeats from last year, which is great. We did send out, I think it was in Jennifer's email on Fridays, Jennifer Weissman's email, request for recruitment, and people did respond to that, which is great. And we're creeping right now around the numbers from last year. We're around 55 to 65. I know that's like a 20% gap right there, but there's some people that are interested, maybe not. We do have Juan and Tirsa coming from Ecuador, right? So, which is great, and maybe some other people. So that's going to be great. We have Joel and Rachel McManigal coming, which is great. So Juan Tirsa, Joel and Rachel, will be able to speak some nights, right, to the First Nations and the camp, which that's going to be great. So new faces, but also some familiar faces coming.
Mm-hmm. Very good. So, but basically, though, your numbers are full, so we don't need additional bodies at this point. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. I guess if that would change, we'll make it known. But the intent, I believe, is to do this beyond even just this second year. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. So, for our listeners who might say, "Oh, wow, that sounds really cool," there will likely be a 2025 family camp. So, keep your eyes out for that. Okay, so what else? We really, more than anything, are hoping that our listeners will be aware of this and that they will be willing to and actually pray for the group as you're traveling. So can you tell us the dates first off, and then also what are some specific prayer requests for, just what you're going to be doing.
Yeah. So we're going out, the week of June 9th through the 14th is when the camp will be happening. A lot of us will be going out a few days in advance, and then maybe traveling back a little slowly. So just, I guess a lot of the month of June will be traveling. But June 9th through the 14th is the week of the camp. So.
Yeah, and I guess for the prayer request would be, for our team, we're still working out some details to go out there, and everything's coming together, no concerns. It's just pray for the team travels there, preparing for the trip, but also pray for the First Nations, that, we have a great time, number one, that their hearts are open to, we're going over the Knowing God book again. We did that last year. We're doing that this year. So it's the grace message, that their hearts be prepared, that they be received. I know hearing the grace message for the first time can be, overwhelming at times because it can be so new. Right. So hearts be prepared, and that we have great numbers this year due to the nature of so every subculture in America is different, right? We don't know the numbers that are coming to family camp from the First Nations. I mean, we won't know until the day of. And that's what happened last year as well. So we know what to expect. So pray that the numbers are up and the hearts be prepared for the message.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something that everybody can appreciate and remember. Can you just kind of walk us through what a typical day looked like last year and what we anticipate it would look like this year? That would help me to better understand what is this going to look like?
Yeah, so in the morning, we all meet together for breakfast. We have a great team from North Carolina. They come out and they man the kitchen. And
wow.
They do a great job, some great Southern cooking. And so
that's what they come for. That is their ministry.
That's their ministry.
Outstanding.
Yeah, and they are a great group. So happy to be partnering with them again this year. We worked with them last year, repeat this year. Always great to work with them. So we start off with breakfast. We have this year we're having last year we did too, praise and worship. A little bit after breakfast, and then we'll have a little short message, and then we break up into our groups for lesson time and games and worship amongst themselves. So that is broken up into basically adults, teenagers, and kids, right? So that's from like 9 to 12. We break for lunch again. After lunch, we go to session 2. And then from 3 to 5, it's free time, right? So that might be some sort of outing. We're going to have archery this year for the kids. They have a human foosball, which is pretty cool.
Okay. It's pretty entertaining to watch.
Yep. They had all the men get together last year and had human foosball. I got video of it. It's hilarious. People really enjoyed that. But what's really cool, and Sarah and I took advantage of this, there's a mountain that overlooks the camp, right? And there's a cross at the top of the mountain. And it's pretty tall, and I remember looking up at it and being like, that's an hour hike. No, it's not. I mean, it was a pretty short hike. And we went up there and saw the sunset or sunrise, and it's just beautiful. I mean, North Dakota, western North Dakota is just beautiful. Mm-hmm. And because we're right at Teddy Roosevelt National Forest, or National Park, which is just a great area. So people did that. They're on their free time. They climbed the mountain, see the great view of the camp, could see the river next to the camp. So we're going to have a couple games around that time too, 3 to 5, in that afternoon time. And after that, we meet for dinner. And then we have an evening session. So usually we did that right at the base of the mountain is a little campfire pit that we have. Right. And so the whole camp comes together. So the sessions during the day, they break up into their ages, right? And for the campfire, everyone comes together at the end of the day.
It's a special time.
Yep.
Yeah. Very good.
I think last year we introduced s'mores to the First Nations. Am I right?
I think some of them,
we had to explain directions for s'mores. So that was a cool thing that we could bring over to them, and all the kids roasted marshmallows and everything. So it was a good time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then on 2 of the evenings, we had mentioned that Juan and Tirsa are coming, and then Joel and Rachel. So on 2 of those evenings, they will be sharing about their ministries in their respective countries. So
Nice.
That'll be the evening session.
yeah. So instead of a campfire, it will be a time of sharing for them, which is really neat, I think, for the First Nations churches to kind of hear the ministries of people from the East Coast.
Right. Well, East Coast / Thailand / Ecuador.
Ecuador,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, you mentioned that you got a video of the human foosball, but do you have any other content from last year that our folks could maybe see, hear, look at, just to help inform themselves of what this is like? Because it sounds really awesome, and
Yeah, so last year, actually, I was a videographer, and I was able to just shoot a lot of videos throughout the day, and then around dinner time, all the kids could see themselves. We just had a highlight loop, right, of just videos, and the kids loved it. So I took that footage, and Sarah and I did interviews on the last day with various people, right, kids, pastors, adults, just got their feedback. And that's probably a 5-minute long video, I think it is. And so we have that video, we can show that video, and that shows what was family camp, what did we learn,
right?
What was it like? And it was interesting. Just getting the feedback from like a 6-year-old, right? And then I got feedback from his dad.
Nice.
Right? And so what they were learning about the grace message, and you can see their bullet point from the week, which is great, right? So we do have that video. We also have, I think, a 2-minute short, maybe 90-second highlight video from our perspective, right? So we could maybe post those. I don't know how.
Down
maybe
in
in the
the
link in the
comment
description,
links,
I think, is what we typically try to do. So yeah, we will make a valiant attempt, and I think we have the technology to make it work. So yeah, very good. Well, is there anything else that either of you two can think of that would be good for our listeners to know about as we prepare? I mean, goodness, June is not that far off anymore.
It's coming up fast.
Just want to appreciate everyone that came to it's not called the congregational meeting, it's called the family meeting. Everyone that came to the family meeting a few weeks ago, and it was really encouraging to hear that so many people came up to us and said, wow, this is great. Now I know how to pray for you. And that was so cool. We gave a short little, I don't know, maybe minute about family camp, but that little minute, it was encouraging that people were just going to pray for us based off of those details. So hopefully we gave you more details today to continue to pray for us, pray for the team and the First Nations.
Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. Well, Mike and Sarah, thank you. And of course, thanks to our listeners for being a part of today's episode, and our viewers. Don't want to forget them. Regardless if it's podcast audio or video, remember that we always love to hear from you. Send over your thoughts, questions, or requests. You can do that at fbcva.org/podcasts and write us your notes and comments. Also, if you want to learn more about our global church partners, make sure you check out the Mission Stairwell right next to the North Main entrance. Each month, the Grace Ministry of Global Missions highlights a different global church partner. This month, we are highlighting Rafael and Myrna Santana from Guadalajara, in Mexico, of course. In the stairwell, you can find info sheets about the Santanas, as well as a word search for the kids, and a recipe from the Santanas is there as well. Again, thanks for watching and listening, and remember that it is Christ who is continually building his church until we all attain to the unity of the faith and of the knowledge of the Son of God.